Should you buy a Nintendo 3DS in 2023? Well, today, folks, we are going to answer that question. We're going to answer which model you should buy, which games you should get if you decide to pick one up, and more. Let's get into it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Media. If you enjoy this video or find it informative, please consider subscribing and dropping a like, as I am posting a ton of 3DS videos, and, you know, expect more. I trust me, I have plenty of 3DS content planned, but today I want to answer the age-old question that people ask every year. Is it worth buying this console in 2023 or the current year? My simple answer is yes. If you are a Nintendo fan, you should absolutely have a 3DS. And there are a multitude of reasons, but first and foremost, it's games. The 3DS has, I think, one of the best libraries of any handheld of all time. In fact, if you don't count the Switch as a handheld, I would argue it probably has the best library of any handheld, you know? The DS might have more quantity, but the 3DS's quality is so high, especially in terms of Nintendo's first-party games, that if you've missed out on this console, there's really never been a better time to go back to it and just finally check out these games. But before we talk about which games you should buy, let's talk about which model you should consider getting when you pick up your 3DS. So there are, I believe, 5 or 6 models of the 3DS. Of course, there's the small original launch model, which is over on the shelf. There's the 3DS XL. Basically, write those off the board. Don't worry about getting those because they release better versions of them in form of the new 3DS, which I don't actually have one of those. It's basically the small 3DS, but better. And then this new 3DS XL. You should go for a new 3DS XL or a new 2DS XL. These play some exclusive games. It's very limited. It's like, you know, Fire Emblem Warriors, Xenoblade 3D, Rumbo, and one other. So it's a very limited library of games that are exclusive. On top of that, you can play SNES games, but with the eShop closing, that's not really gonna matter too much. So if you get a 3DS, I would highly recommend getting a new 3DS because games will load better. The 3D works better if you get a new 3DS. If you care about 3D, I personally think 3D is a really cool feature. So get that. Alternatively, if you aren't going to get a regular, or if you aren't going to get a new 3DS and you want to go for something a little bit cheaper and more, you know, plain Jane style, get yourself one of these bad boys. I actually picked this up for myself recently. I had never had a 2DS. It's the regular 2DS. It doesn't have a clamshell design, and it's actually really comfortable. As someone with pretty big hands, this is a godsend, actually. It doesn't play those exclusive games, but just playing the majority of the library in bed at night or something, this is so comfortable. It's the cheapest 3DS you can get, and honestly, I kind of like the design of it. This is the Mario Maker 3DS edition. Or 2DS edition in this case. And I don't know. If you're going to get a 3DS, I would recommend a new 3DS, the small version specifically, a new 3DS XL, or a regular 2DS, personally. The new 2DS XL is good, and if you don't care about 3D, it's certainly an option for you, and it's going to be a little bit cheaper. But for me, I don't know. I think the build quality of it is a little not as good, personally. Just feels a little bit cheaper, but you really can't go wrong with any of these. The 3DS entire line of systems is all pretty solid, but I would definitely say go for new 3DS XL, or the 2DS here. But now let's start talking about the games, because like I said, I think the 3DS has one of the best libraries of any handheld ever, if not the best, and I have a huge stack here of just some of my favorite 3DS games, or games that I haven't played but I know are great, that I've just, good word of mouth kind of things, right? And homebrew. I don't really talk about homebrew too much on this channel, but the 3DS and the Wii U are both hacked to oblivion, and I know it's the meme, oh, it's so easy to hack your 3DS. It really is that easy, and with the eShop closing, these games are going to get super expensive. You won't be able to officially buy them anymore in a lot of cases, like, you know, in terms of like supporting the developer. So I think a lot of that maybe guilt of pirating a game that you don't actually own, you can't really feel that when you know you're not supporting the developer anyway, right? With the eShop closing in March and homebrew being more accessible than ever, getting these games is as easy as ever. Now, for me, obviously, you know me, I love collecting physical games. I love buying new games for Switch, even, you know, just supporting developers and all that fun stuff. But if you are limited on funds, oh my goodness. I'm going to do a video on Wii U. Wii U should be your first stop, but 3DS, I would say, is right there at number 2. The 3DS library and how easy it is to homebrew and get these games for free, it's incredible. So let's just start going through. I have, like I said, a huge stack of games here. I'm also going to record a video on expensive games to check out for, so subscribe for that. And some of these may be expensive just, you know, because they happen to be here. But the thing with the 3DS library is I don't think most of these games are gonna come to another platform ever. Some of these might, surely. In fact, I can probably name 10 that I have in the stack that will probably come to another platform eventually, but you're gonna be waiting, you know, 5, 10, 15 years in certain cases. So if you want to play these games, just get a 3DS now. So starting off, of course, we have Kid Icarus Uprising. This is the big box version. Sorry about the lighting. This game's absolutely fantastic. I think this is Sakurai's best game. That's not Smash Bros. Not that he's done too much. Kid Icarus Uprising, I think, is one of those games that may come to Switch or the next console at some point, but right now it's locked on 3DS. Unfortunately, it does have a kind of rough control scheme, but the characters, the writing, and the gameplay are all so good. The music, it is absolutely one of the must-own games on 3DS, and if you've never played it, I highly recommend it. Next up is the Pokemon franchise. Now, I only grabbed Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby here because I think these will be probably the most expensive ones, but also I think they're the best games on 3DS, or the best Pokemon games on 3DS. They are fantastic. People talk a lot of crap about Pokemon generations. Even people saying Gen 2 is not good, Gen 3 is not good, Gen 4 is not good. Well, I don't really see people say that. Gen 5 and especially Gen 6 and 7, I see a lot of hatred towards. Listen, if you like Pokemon, you're going to like these games, right? For me, I think these two in particular are probably the best ones that are on 3DS, and they're just really fantastic games. I know some people have issues with them, but if you want to, and especially if you want to actually buy the games instead of homebrewing, get a 3DS now, because Pokemon games on 3DS are going to go up. Historically, Pokemon games always go up in value, despite how many millions of copies are out there. These right now are, I think, a little bit above retail, so they're around like 40 to 50. Get them now if you want to buy them, and if not, just get a 3DS anyway, because these games are fantastic. Here's a pair of games I have not played, but I just want to kind of stress this point here. The 3DS has an incredible JRPG library, rivaled really only by the original DS, I suppose, and maybe PS1. The 3DS has some incredible JRPGs. I haven't played these two, like I said, but Dragon Quest 7 and 8 here. Of course, these were remakes done. And I mean, who doesn't like Dragon Quest, right? And those are exclusive to 3DS. Once again, I think I could see those coming to another platform eventually, but at that point, I think they would do a full remake of 8 again, right? But I played a little bit of 8. It's a good remake for sure. If you want JRPGs, in fact, here I have some more. I'll just kind of grab here some more niche ones. Fantasy Life by Level 5. I've heard fantastic things about this, as well as Ever Oasis from Grezzo. Just to really stress home that point, that the 3DS library is full of JRPGs that, frankly, I haven't played most of them. There's a ton of Shin Megami Tensei games, Etrian Odyssey, you know, Coda Princess, and I don't even know if that's technically a JRPG, but like a lot of Atlas stuff, basically. Persona Q and Q2. There's a lot of great stuff there. If you like JRPGs, if you like those kinds of games, the 3DS... Frankly, if you like those kinds of games, I don't know how you don't already have a 3DS, because it's absolutely incredible for JRPGs. Speaking of which, and this is a more lighthearted JRPG, Yokai Watch. This is Yokai Watch 3. This game is incredibly expensive physically, but, you know, you can always just mod your 3DS. Yokai Watch is a series that I finally got into earlier this year. I've beat the first game. Not really my cup of tea based on that first game, but it has a very dedicated audience, and I know people love it, and I think that 3DS, or that series, is pretty much, unfortunately, always going to stay exclusive to 3DS, at least in America. They did remake Yokai Watch 1 and made Yokai Watch 4 for the Switch, but they never left Japan. So I think, you know, you can play those in Japanese. The games don't really require that much reading, but they kind of do at the same time. They're probably never getting localized. Level 5's Western branch kind of dissolved a little bit there a couple years back. So while I would love to see those games get localized, I think for the foreseeable future, Yokai Watch will be staying exclusive to 3DS in the West, so if you want to play those games, that's really your only option. Next up, we have some Mario games, and this is kind of obvious stuff here, but I don't really see these games ever coming to other platforms. Starting off, we have one of the best-selling 3DS games ever, Super Mario 3D Land. Of course, this is the prequel, or the original game before Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. I actually think 3D Land is a better game beat for beat. It does what it's trying to do, and it just does it really well. It's a fantastic 3D Mario. It's a fantastic handheld 3D Mario, and if you haven't played it, that's like a $10 game, you know, physically. Like, it's so cheap to get that game, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend it, because it's not in 3D All-Stars on the Wii U. Next up, we have an entire series of Mario RPGs that's, again, this developer has gone out of business, so it's not impossible that Nintendo would bring this back on the Switch or the next console or whatever. it's just highly unlikely, I would say, at least in terms of bringing back these specific games. Maybe a new one in the future. And I'm talking, of course, of the Mario and Luigi series. So here we have Dream Team, we have Paper Jam, Superstar Saga. This is the remake of the first game, and then Bowser's Inside Story. The only Mario and Luigi game that's not on 3DS is Partners in Time, which is on DS, which is backwards compatible, which leads me to another crazy point about the 3DS that if you don't know somehow, if you're living under a rock, the 3DS plays DS games. I don't even know what's in here right now. I have a DS game in my new 3DS. This is Club Penguin. You can play this Club Penguin game on the 3DS. It will not focus. Thanks, $800 camera. Yeah, Club Penguin on the DS. You can play DS games. That is crazy. The DS library, although not my favorite, it does have a lot of very crucial stuff. More Dragon Quest games, more Pokemon games, Mario games, all these things. All playable on one console. If you don't have a DS, especially, somehow, get a 3DS. You can play all those. And once again, you can also homebrew them. So, there is that. Next up, we have some remakes of old Nintendo 64 games. I'm not too fond of this one personally, but I know a lot of people do love it. I'm, of course, talking about Star Fox 64 3D. This was a very early 3DS game, but alongside that, we had remakes of Ocarina of Time, as well as Majora's Mask for 3DS, and these are absolutely the definitive way to play two of Zelda's best games. I mean, I played Majora's Mask 3D for the first time 2 years ago, and it was incredible. I'd been mentally blocking that game for so long for some reason, and finally getting through it, it was an absolute blast. I'm so happy I played it. And once again, those are games I could see them remaking again in the future, but for now, for a long time at least, they're going to be stuck on 3DS in their best form, essentially, right? But there's also some other 3DS Zelda games. Of course, we have A Link Between Worlds, which is the sequel to A Link to the Past. I think this is probably the best 2D Zelda, so if you haven't played this, definitely go do that. And also Triforce Heroes. I'm gonna shout it out. People give this game a lot of crap. It's a multiplayer Zelda game. Right now, the servers for 3DS are still online. You can still find players in a lot of these games. I'm not sure about this one specifically, but if you have friends that have the game, you can play it online with them, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's not your traditional Zelda game, but for what it's trying to do, being a multiplayer co-op Zelda, I actually thought it was a lot of fun. A few more series here. I'm talking Kirby right now. Kirby's a franchise that I've kind of been off and on with my entire life. Very recently, though, last year, I played through these 3DS Kirby games for the first time. I played through Forgotten Land, and I would consider myself a full-fledged fan at this point. We have Kirby Triple Deluxe, as well as Kirby Planet Robobot. This one right here, especially, you want to play, is Planet Robobot. Fantastic 2D Kirby game. I think that's when they absolutely perfected that 2D Kirby formula. It's not multiplayer, which is unfortunate, because I think it's a big aspect for a lot of people in Kirby. But regardless, fantastic games. These ones I could see them porting to, or not even porting, but remaking in the future. We're getting Return to Dreamland from the Wii ported to Switch soon. I wouldn't be surprised to see these 3DS games come over. There's also other Kirby games on 3DS. There's Extra Epic Yarn, which I don't have myself, and Kirby Battle Royale, which isn't bad. It's pretty good, I guess. I don't know. Also, quickly wanted to shout out this game, another game that I think could maybe come to another Nintendo platform in the future. That is Metroid Samus Returns. This was a remake of the Metroid 2 on original Game Boy, right? Mercury Steam did a fantastic job. I recently posted my review of this because I played it for the first time at the end of last year. Go check out that video, and yeah, I highly recommend this one. And then the final series I want to kind of spotlight real quick here is Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem, I think, if you need like one franchise to really define the 3DS era for Nintendo, that is Fire Emblem. If there's one takeaway of like a franchise that really took off because of the 3DS, it's Fire Emblem. We're getting Fire Emblem Engage later this week, depending on when you're seeing this. And that's really exciting. Fire Emblem is one of Nintendo's best franchises now, and I think its best games are on 3DS. So starting off, we had Fire Emblem Awakening. This is the game that basically saved Fire Emblem. If you have not played this game, once again, I did just recently do a video, kind of retrospective on it. Go check out that video. Awakening is a fantastic game. Then we have the more divisive Fire Emblem Fates. This is the special edition. This is a very expensive cartridge. Has all three paths on it. But then we have my personal favorite Nintendo 3DS game, a game that came out after the Switch, wasn't expecting that. That is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. This is a remake of Fire Emblem 2. Incredible cast of characters, great music, great voice acting, and just a fantastic story all around. Some of the map design not so great, but Fire Emblem is absolutely a series. If you have never played those games, if you are interested in character building, but also just like a tactics game, if you played the Sky or even like something like Mario Rabbids and XCOM, like it's one of those tactics games, Final Fantasy Tactics. please play Fire Emblem. It is absolutely fantastic, and I promise you, if you like those types of games, you will like Fire Emblem. So this video kind of turned into a best of 3DS spotlight, but I think that kind of just is to drive home the point that the 3DS has a fantastic library, and that's why you should buy one in 2023 if you don't already have one. Hacking it is easier than ever. Getting these games is easier than ever. If you want to collect them, certainly do it now, sooner than later, because prices are going to go up when the eShop goes down. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to get all these games physically, right? And just that library, man. It is such a fantastic library of games. A library of games that I don't really think most of these are ever going to come to other platforms. Even like with these Fire Emblem games, I think Awakening will. I think Awakening is probably going to come to Switch, maybe Switch 2. But after that, you know, Kid Icarus maybe. The Mario and Luigi games, no. Pokemon, not really. They remake Pokemon games, but not in the same sense of porting, you know. There's so many great 3DS games. There's more that I didn't talk about, obviously. Etrian Odyssey, Shin Megami Tensei. Tomodachi Life is a fantastic 3DS game. Just a ton of JRPGs. If you do not have a 3DS, if you've never owned a 3DS, get one now. I even the hardware, I didn't talk about the hardware price, really. I could even see that going up. So you should get one now before it really gets bad. That's just my personal opinion. So there you guys have it. That is my opinion on whether or not you should buy a 3DS in 2023. The answer is absolutely yes. It has one of the best libraries of all time, and the prices are only going to start going up. So I would recommend getting one sooner than later and get playing those games, because there are so many must-play games on the 3DS. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button and that notification bell so you don't miss a future 3DS video from me. I also do a lot of Wii U stuff and Switch stuff, so if you are interested in all that, make sure you are subscribed. Until next time, folks, bye-bye.